Hi, I'm Paul Wilborn, Executive Director of the Palladium Theater in beautiful downtown St. Petersburg, and you're watching Tampa Bay Community Network.
Hi, I'm Linda Saul-Sena, and I welcome you to Culture Vultures. It is my great pleasure today to invite you to a conversation with Paul Wilborn. Paul is a longtime friend. He's the executive director of the Palladium Theater, but much more. So, welcome, Paul. Welcome to the show. Tell us what you're up to at the Palladium. We'll start with that.
Wow. Well, it's the high season in Florida, and we are going 90 miles an hour. Barbara of Seville opens from St. Pete Opera, and they're going to sell out 3 shows.
Wow.
And it's really exciting. They were sort of born at the Palladium, and now they're our biggest client. They do 5 events there a year. And it kind of talks about who we are, because the Palladium was created back after we built all these performing arts centers, and everybody in the community realized no one could afford to do a show at our performing arts centers because they're designed for big road shows, and they're union shops, and they have a lot of reasons why they're expensive.
You know what? Many people don't even know what the Palladium is. A few
Maybe
might
we
not
should
know.
talk
So
about
let's begin with that.
Well, so the Palladium was founded in 1998, and it was a Christian Science church in a beautiful old building, and some very wise folks with some extra money in St. Petersburg, the Huffs, the Stavroses, and a number of other folks said, we've got to have something for our community that's a professional performance venue. And so they really started the Palladium, bought the building, outfitted it, and it's 7 years ago I came on, and it's now run by St. Petersburg College, old St. Pete JC, and it's just a beautiful theater, and we're filling it with great community stuff, and the opera is a real good example. They wouldn't have existed if the Palladium hadn't been there. They were born there, and now they're on their own, stand on their own. They have a great building, and they still perform at the Palladium.
Fabulous. So what other kinds of performances?
We do a very high-end chamber series, and we build all the stuff that I do. I try to build around some of our best talent in the area. So our chamber series is built around Jeff Multer, who's the concert master of the Florida Orchestra. But before he came to do that, Jeff was a really top chamber musician, and so we've brought his chamber group down in residence in February, March, and April, and they do 3 shows, and we just bring in a few extra stars, but it is a huge hit, and people just are hungry for chamber music. We also do jazz and blues and all sorts of different performances that sort of fill the niche that you don't get from the big halls.
And I went to a lecture there that was just spectacular. So you have speakers.
We have speakers, we have film. The Sunscreen Film Festival has its opening night at our place. WDU does lots of events there, and they bring in some of their top folks. We had, during the last election cycle, we had Gwen Eiffel's show, but was there doing their show live, going out nationally from the Palladium. So it was really exciting.
And how does it tie into the college?
Well, I think early on it probably didn't tie in very much. It was a gift to the college, and the college agreed to run it, but we had to figure out how to make it mesh. And the college has a wonderful program they've developed since then called the Music Industry and Recording Arts Program.
Oh, that's great.
And we have interns from that program at every show working alongside our professionals, and a lot of times working alongside national professionals who come in with an act. And we also have classes there now in sound reinforcement and all those things. So we've become a lab for the college, and this is the most popular program the college has going right now.
And you have very sophisticated equipment, don't you?
We do in some ways. That's been the big difference in turning the Palladium around, because it was pretty sleepy when I got there. A lot of the reason because it hadn't caught up technologically. Things are changing so fast. And about 4 years ago, the college invested in a state-of-the-art sound system for us, and that changed the game at our place. And right about that time, a guy named Billy Joel decided he wanted to do
Wow.
a show at a college. And it was just for college people. It wasn't like a full-on Billy Joel concert, but he was there for 2.5 hours talking, playing, and after he left, the people who brought him in, the promoters from Ruth Eckerd Hall who helped bring him in, said, "Oh my gosh, you guys have got state-of-the-art stuff." And suddenly from there, we've developed a big concert business. And we're now working on new state-of-the-art lighting is next and other things. But it's really made a big difference in how the kind of business that we get.
That is great. And didn't you start something jazz downstairs?
Well, we have a great nightclub downstairs. We've got 850 seats upstairs, but downstairs is a 185-seat nightclub. And what I realized as a music lover was that, once you turn 30, everybody's unceremoniously kicked out of the bars, pretty much. If you go,
right.
You look like you're an old person wandering around, and nobody wants you there. So what I created the side door, I mean, it was there. They were doing a few shows there, but we really built it up into a thing as a nightclub for adults, people to come, hear music, have a night out somewhere other than just going to dinner and going home.
You can have a cocktail.
And you can have a cocktail, actually beer and wine, and we have cabaret tables and candles, and people come in, and we have such loyal folks. We had one couple who just wrote a big check because they thought, "We love the side door, hate your chairs." They just bought me chairs.
That's great. But the other thing that I love is that you don't have to wait till 10 or 11 for the show to start.
Right, show starts at 8, and adults like to go home. So by midnight, you can be somewhere else.
And you don't have to be a bouncer.
No, we have no bouncers. It's actually a very nice crowd, and we have no TVs, and it's a listening room. We had one band say, "Oh my gosh, people were cheering, and it wasn't even a touchdown." Because there are no places you can go anymore that don't have 20 TVs going, and bands are trying to compete in these rooms with TVs and noise and everything. And our place is a real concert hall for local and regional and some national groups.
And who gets to choose these groups?
I get to choose. That's really the fun for me. The hard part is just unable to choose as many as I'd like because we only have so many dates. So.
But you run all year, don't you?
We do. And in the summer, we run the nightclub all summer long.
Oh, that's great.
And we're doing stand-up comedy in there now. We've got a little something for everybody in there. Celtic, folk and acoustic, some Broadway stuff. But jazz and blues seem to be my mainstay, and people love that.
And frankly, there aren't that many places to hear it, and it's not smoky.
It's not smoky, and it's inside.
And now it'll have more comfortable chairs.
That's right.
I love it. I love it. No humidity.
No humidity. It's got it going on, Linda. It's designed just for you.
Well, so Paul, in your other incarnations, you are the most truly Renaissance man I know. You also are not Guy Noir, Noel Berlin.
Noel Berlin.
Yes. Okay. Explain that incarnation.
About 4 years ago, some folks got together to do a radio theater project. And what we liked about the idea of a radio theater project was there are a lot of actors in town who don't have time to do a full play.
Right.
The weeks of rehearsal. So radio theater, you rehearse on Friday, you do the show on Monday on book, and we do original Florida pieces and some classic radio with the live sound guy in front of an audience.
And because it's radio, they can't see that you're holding a script.
No one cares. You're holding, so, and 2 years ago, this is the third year, we decided to launch a serial as part of it, and Matt Calley and I write this satirical serial set in St. Petersburg about a piano-playing detective who happens to be me. And my wife plays the love interest, and we take on everybody from governors, all sorts of things. It's a lot of fun and gives us a chance to poke fun at whoever we want to.
So I understand recently Vladimir Putin has entered your quarters. Give us a little riff on that.
Just a little bit. Vladimir has decided the Ukraine is just not enough for him. St. Petersburg, was founded by Russians, and it's named after the Russian city.
It's named St. Petersburg.
That's right.
All.
And so Vladimir has decided he's going to annex St. Petersburg, and he's kidnapped Stiff Redwoods, who's a big entrepreneur, and he's very interested in coming and taking over St. Petersburg, and he wants to meet the Attorney General Pam Bondi. He's very interested in her. So lots going on. St. Peter's Duke Energy, which in our case is called Fluke Energy, has pulled the plug on St. Petersburg because people said so much bad about him during the election. And so they pulled the plug, and now St. Peter's become an old West town, sort of out of a John Wayne movie. So that's sort of what you get from our thing.
So let's say somebody wanted to attend one of these. How could they find out about it?
Radio Theater Project, the studio at 620, it's on their website. That's where we perform it in downtown St. Pete.
Explain for folks what Studio 620 is.
Studio is a wonderful performance and art venue in downtown at 620 First Avenue South. And they do lots of different things, from theater to arts to our Radio Theater Project. And that's where we do radio theater in front of live audience for about 100, 110 people every Monday, once a month.
So do you have to register to go?
You just show up.
That is fabulous.
Pay what you want, and it's fun, and people have a great time. And we have such followers in Noel, Berlin, that they just show up and want to know what the next episode will be. Plus, they get a lot of other great shows.
And the sound effects, live sound effects are a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun. So that's a good project, and fortunately, it's just once a month, so we don't lose our minds doing it.
Well, speaking of, I mean, you are truly one of the community's busier people, and you also are writing, I know, a blog about the Palladium. I mean,
I do a blog because you knew me as a journalist when we first met, and I worked for the Tribune and for the St. Petersburg Times, and so now writing a blog for me is kind of just a way to keep my writing chops up a little bit. So I interview a lot of our performers, and a lot of times I'll pick up things that appear in the paper, but it's just if you're not blogging now, who are you, Linda? The world will forget you if you're not out there doing something.
So you're also part of the St. Pete Voice for spending money on the arts as an economic development engine. And I know that can you sort of bring us up to speed and what's going on with that?
What's great that I found in St. Petersburg is that there's a real feeling of a rising tide among the arts organizations. When I was working with the mayor in Tampa, it was interesting how some arts groups would compete with one another, and when they would come to me and they would talk badly about some other arts group, I'm going, why? And in St. Petersburg, what I really found is we all work together, and we're all trying to make the other look good.
I totally believe that. It's like more shoe stores. That's more theater companies.
Absolutely.
It's good.
Competition is actually good for you in many ways. And we don't even consider it competition. So we have a group called St. Pete Arts, and it's the CEOs of all the nonprofit arts organizations in St. Pete, and I sit on the executive committee. And last year, I don't want to say, last spring or last summer, we were talking about things we ought to be doing, and we basically just said it's all about arts funding because it had gone away almost everywhere. And so we've put a push on. We connected with all our friends up in the north part of Pinellas County, Zev Buffman, up in Tarpon and everywhere. We formed an ad hoc group called Pin Arts. And
Pin?
P-I-N-E, like Pinellas.
Oh, got it.
Like just P-I-N Arts. And the city has upped their contribution by over $100,000. The county is holding public hearings right now on upping theirs. We think $1 million could be coming from the county. And
that would be for marketing all the arts?
No, marketing could be for anything. Could be arts grants. Really, what we lost in the recession was multi-million dollars in grants. The Pinellas lost its arts council. It went from having a staffed arts council to having one person in a sort of a cyber arts council, and it was a good idea that didn't work, I think. And so I think everyone has realized now that we're no longer on the brink of economic collapse, that the arts are a draw, the arts are a tourist magnet, the arts are an economic development engine.
Absolutely, and cultural tourism, as we know, generates more revenue for the community.
I mean, the fact I always try to throw out in these things, more people pay to sit down at the Strass Center in any single year than pay to sit down at Raymond James Stadium the entire year. And Raymond James holds a lot of people when they show up. The arts are day in, day out. If you are an arts draw, like the Dali, like a lot of what's happening in St. Pete.
Like the Palladium.
Like people come all year long. A football game, they come in for one, they leave. Yeah, you have kind of a big surge for one weekend, but the arts, if that's what you're attracting people, they come all the time. They stay, they spend money, and you don't even have to market as hard to them.
And they eat, and they drink.
They eat, and they drink, and they go out, and they stay in your hotels.
It's really interesting how linear that relationship is between people going to arts events and spending money in the community on these other things.
And you've got to, arts organizations employ lots of arts people. And if you want to be an arts town, my argument is always, just because it's great that Yo-Yo Ma is here with our orchestra this weekend, or it's great that some big name star comes and plays the arena, but that doesn't make you an arts town. What makes you an arts town is, are the artists in your town getting paid? Are they working? Are they selling their stuff? If you're a musician, do you have places to play? That's what makes an arts town. People can afford to live here and be arts people.
I couldn't agree more. Well, speaking of people coming to performances, I had the distinct pleasure a few weeks ago of seeing you perform in yet another incarnation. It was a show that you did with two talented musicians and your beautiful and gifted wife, Eugenie. It was about Sinatra, and you've been doing this at American Stage in different ways. Can you explain a bit of this for our audience?
Well, I think I can only do all this stuff because I never had kids, Linda. So so I have a lot of extra time. So I've always been a musician on the side and had bands for years. But recently, I've really fell in love with the American Songbook, all the songs from the 20s, 30s, 40s, and up into the 50s. And so we've been doing these shows where I talk about where the songs come from, or do a themed show, play a bunch of songs, but you also get a history lesson that's hopefully fun and enjoyable. And our last show is Sinatra's 100th birthday in 2015. And he had so many great songs, and he was such a character in so many ways that that was our last show, and it was great. And I got to tell a lot of stories, do those great songs. And in March, we're doing Cole Porter show, and we're going to take
wonderful.
you to the apartment he had, the exclusive apartment he had in Paris in the 20s, and then to the Waldorf in the 30s. And you're kind of in a party at those two places during the show.
How could they find out on which musician or artist is the one to join?
We have on Facebook a Paul Wilborn American Songbook Series page.
Yes.
Which you've got to have a page now, Linda, or you just don't exist out there anymore. And American Stage has us on their website with all our listings under their cabaret series. So it's kind of fun. And we're in downtown St. Pete. It's beautiful. They've got a grand piano, a bar, cabaret tables, and so.
Again, you can eat and drink and be
It's,
entertained.
yeah, it's a lot of fun.
And not terribly expensive. So.
Yeah, not expensive at all. Very, very cheap. I don't know if we can talk all those prices on this air, but it's good and cheap.
It's a wonderful evening's entertainment.
Thanks.
And again, not starting at 11 at night, which to me is critically important.
You're out plenty of time to go out in St. Petersburg, which is so jumping now,
Well, you and I were talking about Peter Kageyama's new book about cities and how it's really about the experiences that you have in a city that make you love it. And you've been in St. Petersburg 7 years now, and wouldn't you say it's evolving as just a dynamic urban center?
It really is, and I think it's come back not because of vast government spending or vast government planning. I think it's come back because it's always had a residential downtown. It's come back because they set aside beautiful waterfront back in the day, and it's a beautiful urban setting. And it also is low-rise. Storefronts, Central Avenue is storefronts and unique restaurants and unique shops from the Bay out to US 19 and then even beyond now. So you've got miles of low-rise creative space. I ride my bike up Central Avenue on weekends, and I'm just amazed. I'm the least hip guy, along the street, and that didn't used to be the case. So I think it really that's helped, and the fact that I meet so many people who had no connection to St. Petersburg, but who visited and decided this is a place I'm going to bring my work, my family, or my retirement. We've got a lot of successful folks who've decided that's where they want to spend their retirement years, and they're not doing it because there's family or something. They're doing it because of the lifestyle of the city.
I went to a workshop at Studio 620 recently, and a number of the people there said, we selected this place as a choice as a place they wanted to live the next 20, 30 years.
Yeah, it was interesting. I was at a big art event Saturday night and met this young couple who have a studio at this art studio, and they were in Denver, and they started punching in, Google searching all these things that they would like to have in a place where they were going to move to and live. And they took a year, and that Google search turned up St. Petersburg. They had no connection.
Wow.
And it was one of 5 places. They went to all 5 places, and once they got to St. Pete, they said, done, we're here. And they're young, they're creative, they're talented, and they said, we're here.
What a compliment.
Yeah.
Well, I remember when you were working with Duncan McClellan, the glass artist who's so gifted, who was looking for a place to go. And he selected an area that was sort of a little funky and run down, and now he and some others have helped really create the Warehouse Arts District.
It really is, and there's been, the city's actually helped by contributing. They're doing a big project there called the Arts Enclave, and they funded it, and they've raised enough money to do it, and it's going to, what's happened when someone like Duncan moves into this area, which had low property values, lots of artists could move in. Of course, it got hot, and people started buying up the warehouses for other real estate projects and breweries and all sorts of things like that. So this latest project called the Enclave is taking a full-on city block in the Warehouse Arts District and making affordable art studios in there.
Affordable.
Yeah.
That's
and so
really
you'll have
key.
long-term, long-term rent control for artists in there, and it's really hit a critical mass of the arts in St. Pete. And I think that's, a lot of what's happening.
Well, it's really fun to see how it's all evolving and for you to be a central part of it. So back to where we began, the Palladium. Give us some sense of what will be coming up and any special. The opera has really taken on the Palladium as their home base and then grown the organization from there. But you also, I've noticed you have these really colorful posters out front. You have really edgy other art forms going on too. I mean,
It's been a real interesting ride, and what we've tried to do is engage the community, and then the community has brought stuff to us.
Oh, really?
In many ways, I'm so happy I'm not programming everything that's happening at the Palladium. A lot of it is what comes to us from the community because they want to do stuff here. So we've got a show called Awakening into the Sun, which are all of these wonderful visual artists and singers coming in March, and they're putting together this, combination show.
sort of a mashup of visuals
I think
and
so,
music?
yeah, and all we have to be is the venue, but we've created this place where these things can happen. We also have great partners in Ruth Eckerd Hall and the Mahaffey Theater and AEG Live, which are bringing us real concerts, name concerts. Paul Reiser, the comedian, is coming. Just lots of big name artists. I think Kevin Nealon, the comedian, was just confirmed. And so we're a mix of all these things, and it gives people a real feeling of like a smorgasbord you can choose. Not everything we do is going to be for every audience, but we've found enough wonderful genres that we're just, I need more months in the year.
That's a high class word. So if people want to find out what's going on, how do they
really, you
access
can
you?
sign up for our emails. The website, obviously, is still the best place to start, and it's mypalladium.org, or just Google the Palladium in St. Petersburg, and you'll get us. It's a great website. Sign up for our e-blasts. Call me, come over, we'll give you a tour, whatever. It's still a little family spot. I mean, we've got about 18 full and part-time employees. But
And do you have volunteers?
we have about 100 volunteers, and if anyone's interested, we have a great volunteer program, and our volunteers love the place and are really loyal.
You've created a very warm vibe there. It's a very welcoming place. It's very active and not pretentious.
It's really like a family place. If somebody tells me, "Oh, I had a bad experience," well, please come back and here have a good experience on me. We're just pushovers in trying to make people happy, but we find, except for parking, which is a problem anywhere in an urban area, we have no complaints. People are generally 99% happy, and if they see a show that maybe in their cup of tea, they say, well, you know, it was nice you had it here. That may not have been my favorite, but we just had the most, you know, wonderful thing, and we're going to do more of these. It was some great pop and rock musicians from St. Pete who put together the music of Wizard of Oz and Mary Poppins, and they scored it and arranged it and had 3 singers and a full band, and I just had a smile on my face the whole time, and it was all built around local talent. And we had a full house.
You know, that I think is my biggest takeaway from this, is the idea that we have local talent. We don't, I mean, importing marvelous people is great, but we have a whole community of gifted musicians, artists, dancers, actors here.
You've got to have some place where they can do what they do in a very professional way, because just, you know, just because someone lives here doesn't make them less of a talent than someone who happened to climb the rung and break through, you know, nationally. And what we found, we take on artists and see them go. There's a great guy named Selwyn Birchwood, and Selwyn got a master's from USF. He's an African-American guy who plays the blues. He's in his 20s. And his band is an all African-American band playing the blues, which, let's face it, most blues bands are old white guys like my age. He sold 41 tickets the first time he came to my place. Now, I'm about to move him to the big room. He's on the National Blues Circuit. I just saw him in New Orleans headlining a festival. So you take these folks and you watch them grow. That's really exciting.
It is. It's good for them as artists, and it's good for our community to know that we can nurture talent like that.
Most of them remember us too. And, oh yeah,
they know us when. Yes, exactly. Exactly. That's really great.
I think that's the most satisfaction out of the thing for me, is finding these folks who, and so we let them have a great jazz guy who puts on shows, but he'll bring in top people from New York that he wants to play with. We put the show together. It sells well for me because I have a local name that people know, and so we kind of help make people's, you know, musical or artistic dreams come true in a way, and it works.
In a beautiful place.
In a beautiful place, and the audiences love it. So it's fun.
That is so much fun. And speaking of people who, you know, have gone away, you were in Berlin, you were in out west in LA, and you came back. And Tampa Bay is much richer for that. It is really fun to hear all the things you're up to.
I'm tired just thinking about it.
Well, I think it's fabulous for us all. And I'm always amazed at the variety and the quality of each of those endeavors. It's really impressive.
I think it must be my short attention span or something like that. But, but I just like all kinds of art and music as long as it's high quality. And so I think if you approach the arts in that way, look for the quality, look for the good stuff, you cut across a lot of boundaries. You know, Duke Ellington said it's all, you know, it's either good or it's bad. Music is music. And so you just look for the good stuff, and it's everywhere you look if you really do.
Well, you look for it, and then you bring it for us to enjoy. So thank you for that. Thank you so much, Paul, for coming today.
This was fast. This was so good.
Yeah, well, you have good things to share. Thank you all so much for joining us today on Culture Vultures, and come back again. Thank you.